Hey everyone, welcome back to Beekeeping with Natalie, or welcome to if you are new. Today we're going to go into a hive and just check to see what they're looking like. I know they are looking pretty good just because I haven't been able to not check them the last few days. So I did check them a little bit ago, just kind of see how they were doing, and they looked really, really good. So I wanted to check them again today, see where they're at. Now, this time of the year, the weather's always a little sketchy. I believe it's been in the 70s, and I think we got into the 80s the other day. It was crazy hot. Then today it's only up to like 60 or so it's been a little chilly. It's been rainy, and the clouds are just covered everywhere. It hasn't rained in a little bit, but it did rain this morning. But we're just getting into the bees whenever we can. It's kind of a weird season right now. Some of the bees are just at different points, but I think these girls are doing really good. They were actually in a tester box that we had, and then they got switched to this wooden box like a couple of weeks ago, and then we added supers immediately because they looked pretty good. So not that long ago, we were going through, my last video kind of explained it, what we were doing, just checking to see what they look like, see if they need supers, because we know our black locust is here starting in about probably, I don't know, hopefully a couple days. It should start like any day now. We have a couple of trees down the road that are always a little late, but I think it's just about that time that they should start. So we're waiting for that, so we're making sure that all of our hives have a good amount of supers on it. The only thing that's really I know of blooming right now is blackberries, and there's a little bit of honeysuckle, I believe it is. So blackberries always do a pretty good flow for us. So we're gonna try and see what they're looking like here. Now if you're, oh, that's fun. Now if you're going out of town, or if you're maybe not gonna be able to get into the hives for a little bit, this would be the time to also check to see if they need a couple more supers. You want to make sure that they have just plenty of room because it is swarming season, and you also don't want to miss a flow. So right when I open it up, I can already tell that they're up here in this top box. Now I also can just tell by looking at the hives. Now because it's not very sunny out today, they're not flying as hard as they were, but yesterday, I mean, they were just shooting out of the hives and then coming right back in. So they were working really hard. And what we did, if you watched the last video, you know that we do these two frames in the middle are just foundation. So what we'll do is we'll have them draw that out if we're still trying to get them to draw out a good bit. But the rest is just comb, so it doesn't look like they've started on these ones here, which is okay. It looks like they're just barely starting a little bit of wax right here. These supers haven't even been on for 2 weeks yet. It's been just over a week. So the fact that they're even up here though, that's a good sign, especially because we really don't have a main flow on. It's just kind of what's ever out there right now. Now this one's pretty full. This whole thing is full of nectar. And it is fresh. I had some just yesterday actually. It's as thin as water, so very new. I'm gonna put this one back and pull off this top box so we can get down to the next super to see what that looks like. So they're only working a few of these, like these probably 6 frames here. So if I were to be leaving for the next week or so, I would definitely add some more supers because I know I'm not gonna be able to get to them for a while. So, and they can build just a ton in a couple of days. But I'm not gonna add any today. So it's got a little bit of weight to it, which is another way to figure it out. Also, if you're wanting to build out some really thick frames, this would be the time to also pull out one of these frames and give it a little shake, or you can use a spacer so that they're spaced out perfectly and they make that comb really thick. Now immediately when I pull this one off, if you look down, you can see that they're just barely starting to cap some of this, especially that frame right there, which is just crazy and really exciting. It always feels too early, but I think we're just about on schedule. But it's always exciting to see those first cappings of the year. So I'm going to pull this frame out here and see what it looks like. This one doesn't feel too heavy, but they're still working it. So they're out here on this outside frame, which means they're really bringing in some nectar. And it's really light, which is my favorite type of honey. That spring honey is probably the best, in my opinion. Okay, so this is pretty full too. Now I want to check out these frames in here that they're capping. Looks like they're also starting on these 2 foundation frames here, which I'll pull those out. Okay, so they've just barely started capping this top piece here. But you'll also notice if you look at it from the side, it's pretty thick, which is also just great to see that. So they're definitely starting to cap this up here. Now, I'm not going to try it on camera, but I know it's really good and it's really fresh. So they've got most of this filled up. And then these foundation frames, when they start building that out, it's always a good sign. So they've got most of this built out and then added nectar to it. I guess the sun decided to come out a little bit while we were filming today. So that side looks pretty good too. So this just shows that the second you see a little bit of a nectar flow on in that brood box, you start to see them fill it up. Go ahead and add supers just because you never know if they'll start to fill it. And I kind of just did it out of safety, making sure that they had plenty of space, they didn't swarm, and that if there was a nectar flow on, they would be able to fill up some supers for us. So I'm glad we did that because this frame is crazy heavy and they've also started to cap that. And this is just really thick up here. So that looks great. Now, not all of the hives are going to be at this level. I know some of them have just barely started. It's hard not to go through each frame, so we're going to pull out another one just because it happens every single year, but every single year I think it's crazy and really exciting. So this is just a start to all of it. So they're also, this second to last frame looks like they're also capping that. So yeah, I always recommend, I said this in the last video, doing 2 boxes. So if they look like, if you only have 1 on and it looks just like this super, you definitely want to add another box or 2. I would recommend putting 2 on. But because I have 2 of these supers on, which I'm glad I did that because you can see how fast they filled both of them up. If we would have just put the 1 on, it would have been likely that they probably would have wanted to swarm. Something would have happened. So I'm glad we did put 2 of them on there. Now, if that top box is a little bit more full and they've started on those foundation frames, I will go ahead and add 2, but it doesn't look like they're quite there. So I'm going to leave them be. It's awful. I'm going to leave them for a little while and then we'll come back, check to see how they're doing. Now, also keep in mind, we are adding comb frames. Well, that's not good. See if I can get her out of here. There's a... Hold up. We're gonna pretend like that never happened. You know, I'm gonna watch how I say this, but I try to keep it real, like one of my last videos, but I don't know how much people like those. I got a little bit of mixed signals from that, but I do try to keep it real, so I'll keep as much of that in as I want to, but it's not gonna be. Well, anyways, let's just keep going. What was I saying? I think I was talking about comb honey, or nope, not comb honey, but I was talking about how we keep comb in the hive. And this first early spring honey is what I want to get. So, and a lot of times it can be hard to get them to build out this time of the year. So that's when that drawn out comb comes in handy this time of the year. So that's when I would definitely use it. Now I understand newer beekeepers might not have that, so you want to get them on pretty early so they can start building it out. But that's another reason I think they've been able to draw it out and fill it really quickly, because they only have 2 frames of foundation in these. Let's add this, and then probably soon here I'll end up adding another box. So anyways, I think that's pretty much it. So I'm going to put this lid back on. We'll add some more drawn supers here the next couple days. Give them just plenty of space. This is also another thing to note. This is a single here, so it's single brood, which I've talked about before. And some people know I'm not a huge fan of it, and I think that's just because they're harder to manage, which a lot of people kind of understand that, which is just something to be aware of if you do end up doing single brood. Do they get you more honey? Yes, and I do think they do a lot better as single brood, but they're just harder for us to manage And as a 16-year-old girl, it's hard to lift those boxes. So when they have like 5 boxes on here, it's hard to take off, and a lot of times I can't reach it. So, but anyways, this is a single, and I'm looking forward to see how they do. So we're gonna check some other hives, see what they look like, but that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching today's video. Follow along for more bee adventures, and be here next time on Beekeeping with Natalie.